Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the show. Sorry, a little bit late there on the transition. Just dealing with something right now. So I apologize for that, but welcome to Sunday Night Live. Might have some new folks in here tonight from the Studio One Sessions group. If you are here, then please say hello in the chat. I would love to get to know you a bit better, and that's what this show is all about. The reason why we have folks coming in from the Studio One Sessions group is that there was a mixing contest that went on over there just recently, and I had the privilege of judging and listening to the top 10 mixes, which was great actually, and I have picked a winner and two runner-ups. So, and I believe there's only one prize up for grabs as far as I'm aware. So it's basically a winner and two honorable mentions. So we'll be getting to that in just a wee minute. But there's one kind of thing I want to take care of first of all. And that is, can we please, if you don't mind, I'd appreciate it a lot, if we could, kind of keep the politics out of the chat, please. I'd appreciate that a lot. It's not that I'm anti-politics. Believe me, I am the last person on the planet to be anti-politics, because I'm not. I'm very pro-politics, and I have some very strong political views of my own, but I prefer to keep them out of Jonny Lipsham Studios and any videos that I make and any live streams that I do. The simple reason is that, this is a music show, guys, and this is a music channel. This is about recording, mixing, mastering, songwriting, music theory, music history. That's what this channel is all about. It's not really about politics. There are other outlets for politics. If you guys want to discuss politics, then by all means do so on your own channels or on your own Facebook pages or in other political discussion groups. I definitely highly recommend, if you want to discuss politics, getting involved in a political discussion group. I am involved in several on Facebook, some to do with British politics and some to do with international politics. So, and I actually chair two of the groups. So definitely I wholeheartedly advocate getting involved politically and getting involved in political discussion and discourse. I think it's very healthy. Just not on my channel, if that's okay. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it. And so I really don't want to, I don't like having to kind of tell you guys to not do stuff, because, I'm all for, Jonny Lipsham Studios and Sunday Night Live. I'm all about this being a happy place, and for people to be happy and free to kind of express their views and talk about things, music and mixing. And I'm sure we have all got a lot of different viewpoints on how we go about mixing and how we go about writing songs and how we go about playing gigs or getting gigs, those kind of things. And, by all means, go for it. Express your views on those subjects. Even if you disagree with me, that's fine. I'm all for disagreement. Disagreement is good. Disagreement is healthy. Because it means that we have an opportunity to learn from each other. And that's what I'm all about. And that's what this channel is all about. It's all about learning. And believe me, I learn a lot from you guys. Probably more than you learn from me, I would think. Because you guys are an extremely knowledgeable bunch. So with that said, let's, kind of put that to bed now. We don't need to talk about it anymore. So, a couple of things that we can have a chat about tonight and have a look at tonight. And one, of course, is the results of this mixing contest. If you are not a member of the Studio One Sessions group over on Facebook, I highly recommend it. It's a great little group, and it's a place where you can submit your mixes and you can get feedback on what you're doing, It tends to be about, the group tends to be about kind of mixes in progress. So if you have something that you're working on and you want another pair of ears, go over and join that group, and then you can post your mix there. And believe me, you will get some terrific feedback. And you'll get some really honest feedback as well. You know, there'll be people there that will give you honest, truthful, and respectful feedback, which is what we need as mix engineers if we're going to grow and develop in our craft. So definitely go post over there for sure. They also hold regular... why did I say regular? I don't know why I said it like that. Excuse me. Yeah, they also hold regular mixing contests, and there are prizes up for grabs. Usually prizes up for grabs. And they are self-funded. They don't have any funding from Presonus. They don't have any endorsement from Presonus or anything like that. We don't endorse them. However, they are completely self-funding. So any prizes are purchased by donations to the group. So if you are up for being involved in such a thing, then definitely go join the group and donate a couple of dollars to making sure that those mixing contests can go ahead and that there are good prizes that can be given away to a well-deserving mix engineer. So if you're up for that kind of thing, then go for it. Go and join that group. So with all that said, we'll get to the results of that in just a few minutes. I just want to see kind of who's in to start with, because that's kind of what I do to start my show, is I kind of start with who's here and who, you know, who's saying hi in the chat. If you are from the sessions group, please do come and say hello in the chat. Marcus Gomez was first in the door. Hello, Marcus. How are you doing? Good to see you. And my good friend over in Glasgow, Photography, Light and Magic. Really, you should shorten that to PLM. I think that'd be really cool. PLM. But yeah. He says, hope you're well, hope your family well. The world's gone nuts and Boris Johnson needs a haircut. Yes, I think he does too. But that said, I think I do as well, to be honest. I don't have a whole lot of hair to cut, but it definitely needs cut because I have not been able to get to the barbers for a wee while. And my wife my wife works in the National Health Service here in Scotland and hasn't really had a whole lot of time to cut my hair because she's been super duper busy. But yes. And who else do we have here? We have John Lake is here. He says, I love being back in Scotland. Hey, John, good to see you, mate. He says, I miss winning the Fender guitar by 1. I was turned up to 11 and the winner was at 10. That's funny. Thomas Melkison over in the Philippines is here. He says, good morning. Good morning to you, my friend. I hope you're doing well. And who else do we have? Ken Moss, one of my moderators, is here. And who else is here? Dwayne552 is here. He says, it's fall in Idaho. Cooler days. Leaves are begging to turn colors and fall off the trees. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, it is that time of year. Drummer Mike, one of my other mods, and Just Bob, another moderator of mine, is here as well. And Tim Talks Audio is here. He is my other moderator that I have a good team of moderators here with Ken, Mike, and Bob and Tim helping me make sure that questions get fielded to me and make sure that everything runs nice and smoothly, and that if we do get the odd person that likes to post spam and that kind of thing, gets dealt with pretty quickly. They are good at that. And because this is a public broadcast, anybody can come and join and anybody can come and watch this show. So yeah, occasionally we do get people that like to post unpleasant things. So they kind of help me take care of that stuff. So I'm glad they are here. Let's see. Tim says, don't forget that sometimes your show is the Jonny Lipsham plug-in hour. Yeah, occasionally it is, isn't it? Yeah. For sure. And DJ Vivaldi is here. Kyle Jadruziak is here. William Everts. Good to see you, buddy. Not seen you in quite a while, so I'm glad you're here. And that brings us up to date, I think. Oh, Diego, I missed you. Sorry, buddy. You're here. So there we go. That's everybody, and that's pretty cool. We got 21 people here already, which is great. Good way to start the show. So we are 14 minutes in, just about. So let's get to the results of our little contest, shall we? I don't know if they are here. If you are here, my three winners, my one winner and my two honorable mentions. If you are here, that is great. If you're not, I believe that Nick will post the results over in the Studio One Sessions group, and you'll be contacted to receive your reward, your prize. The person that has the first place, that is, because I think there's only one prize up for grabs. But check that over in the Studio One Sessions group with Nick. He will set you right, because he runs that place, and he runs it pretty good. Thank you for letting me know, Kyle. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, so let's go and check out this result. And it's going to be quite difficult to do drum rolls. So we'll have to think of something else to do instead of drum rolls. All right, so I have to tell you, this mix, for those of you that don't know what the mix, what the song was, it's a song called Relentlessly. And it was a real challenge because there was a lot of synths and a couple of drum machines in there, and there was just a lot of opportunity to do a whole bunch of really creative things with event effects and automation and all of that kind of stuff. It wasn't really the kind of song where you can just push up the faders and get a nice balance and leave it. Really, this was a song where you could that's kind of like the foundation, the building, the foundational building blocks of the mix is to get that nice balance, and then you can really go to town with lots of ear candy and automation and special effects and stuff like that for your mix. You could really totally go to town with this song, and really that kind of was what made the difference for me. That's what I was looking out for. I wasn't just looking out for a good overall balance and being able to clearly hear each element of the mix, and having a mix that made me really engage with the whole song, because those are kind of foundational. If those aren't there, then you're not going to be in the top 10 of any mixing contest. So those kind of need to be in place. And, for those that were in the top 10, they were in place, with maybe a couple of exceptions where they kind of weren't. But for the most part, they were pretty, the 10 that we had, I think 8 or 9 of them were absolutely solid. And it was a case then of picking the 3 that really were the most creative mixes and the most engaging and the most entertaining mixes of the song. So those are the kind of things that I was looking for. And so I'm going to announce the winners now. And the winners might actually be a bit of a surprise, because I have, in all of the contests that I have either participated in or been a judge of, and I've been a judge a few times now, so I kind of know the drill on this. But yeah, these 3 people are not people I have seen before in, the podium position, if you like, in the mixing contest. So here we go. In 3rd place. Now I'm going to have to apologize, because I'm going to probably butcher this name, because I think it's Russian or something, or it might even be Polish. But the name is, and I think it's the name of a studio, and it's Studio Plavakucha Sisak. You are 3rd place. Well done to you. Your mix was really, really good. And, there was a lot of really creative things going on. I don't know if you're here, but there was a lot of really creative stuff going on with your mix that really kept me engaged and entertained all the way through the song. And particularly the hardest part, I think, of the song for anybody to mix was the last chorus, the last section of the song. And I think the challenge was keeping it going, keeping it entertaining, keeping it engaging through that last chorus and that last section. A lot of people kind of fell flat, and I started to get a little bored in some respects. But yes, third place, Studio Plavat Kucha Sisak. Well done to you. You are third place. Can the participants tell us what speakers, headphones, speaker emulation software they are mixing on? If they're here, then they might want to volunteer that information. I'm not really entirely sure how relevant that is. If it's a good mix, it doesn't matter what you mix on, my opinion. If you've done a great job, I mean, yeah, it's interesting to find out what they were using, absolutely, but I don't think it makes that much of a difference. Second place goes to Heartfill Robert. Heartfill Robert, I don't know who you are, and I don't know if you're here, but you get second place. Your mix was really, really good. In fact, it was difficult for me to decide who was going to get second place and who was going to get first place, because they were really, really good, really entertaining, really creative, lots of interesting use of delays and reverbs, particularly sidechained reverbs, which was very, very cool. And the way you balanced all the synths and you brought them in and out, and you filled out the low end. A lot of the mixes that we got here kind of didn't have a whole lot of low end going on. Some of them were quite thin, but these three that have won this contest, they were really well rounded, which is actually a little bit of a challenge given kind of the material that you had to work with. So well done to you. And finally, the winner, who gets the prize. I cannot remember what the prize is. If somebody could quickly dash over to the group and check what the prize is for that and put it in the chat, I'd be grateful, because I cannot remember what the prize is. Yeah, I'm not sure that I can actually, Tim, for copyright reasons. And we don't want copyright strikes. Sorry about that. I certainly don't. Okay, the winner is Rindra Ramil. Whoever you are, well done to you. Outstanding mix. Outstanding mix. Top of the tree. Really, really terrific mix. You had the best vocal. I think that's what won it for me between Heartfill Robert and Rindra Ramil. You had the best sounding vocal consistently through the whole song. And that was actually quite hard, because there are a lot of competing elements competing for space in the the sonic spectrum for the vocal. Lots of synths going on that were fighting with the vocal, so it was quite a challenge to get the vocal to always be on top, to always be clear and concise. And in the case of Rindra Ramil and Heartfill Robert, you guys nailed that vocal, but Rindra Ramil had it most consistently clear, concise, upfront, and sounded fantastic. Really terrific, outstanding work. So there you go. There's your three. So in third place, we have Studio Plavakucha Sisak, and then in second place, Heartfill Robert, and the winner is Rindra Ramil. So there you go. If you know who you are and you're here tonight, congratulations, you top three. You have done yourselves very, very proud, and you should be very pleased with yourselves because the competition was pretty stiff for this one because it was a real challenging song to do, particularly as it was at 66 beats per minute. And, slow songs can be a hard one. Especially if you've got lots of detail and lots of different things to bring in and out, that can be a real challenge. Mika says, folks come to my studio and hear things they never heard in their mix, depending on the speakers. Too much high-pass filter often used on small speakers or mismatched subwoofers. Yeah, that can certainly be true. But my opinion, if the mix is good, and I've checked all of these mixes, not just on my speakers, but on these headphones and another set of headphones, and also I have another set of speakers. I have a set of 1973 Celestion 15s and a valve amp that I've had since 1984. And really, when I'm mixing, that is my final quality control. If they sound great on those Celestions, they will sound great anywhere. To be honest, it's they sound anything that's good will sound fantastic on those speakers. But if your mix is not well balanced, you will find out on those Celestions, and then I have to come back in here and do the mix again or make some adjustments to my mix. And so I ran all 10 of these 10 finalists through my quality control chain, which is my PreSonus RSE5s, the PreSonus HE7s, the PreSonus HD9s, and then through the Celestion 15s, and then also through a pair of Apple iBuds. I think that's what they're called. Earbuds, not iBuds, earbuds. And through just a crap cell phone speaker as well. And so that's how I come up with who gets what when I'm judging my contests. So there you go. And Tim Talks Audio has put in the link to the winning mix. Enice43 is here. Hey mate, good to see you. Welcome. Marcos says, size isn't a thing. My monitor's a 4-inch and speak 55. The mixes I'm doing are great and they aren't Genelecs or Adams, they are edifiers. Cool. Yeah, see? It all depends. Kyle says, I didn't give this one enough effort due to outside issues. Yeah, I have found myself doing that. I entered a few of these contests over at the Studio One Sessions group, and quite often I start the mix and then I just get too busy with other things that take up my time that I'm getting paid for, and so kind of contests tend to fall by the wayside. I just don't get the time to really give them time and attention, so I end up not submitting my mix usually. Mike says, I wasn't aware of this contest, but I limit my Facebook contacts, so no real surprise. Yeah, but he does say congratulations to all the winners. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, all 10 finalists were really good mixes, and I had to listen through each a fair few times and make notes. Before I got to a point where I knew what my final 3 were. And then it was a case of, when I knew my final 3, I had to listen to those 3 back to back to make sure that I was putting them in the correct order. First place, second place, third place. So there you go. There was a bit of a fight over third place between Studio Plavacucha and one other mix. They were pretty close, but in the end, I went with Studio Plavacucha because the bottom end was just more well-rounded, and the other one had been just a little bit too thin. And so particularly the latter the latter, I think probably third, you could probably put this song into 3 chunks, 3 parts. And that last section, you really had to keep it going. And for a lot of folks, it kind of just started to get a little bit flat and a little bit boring, or a little bit too thin sounding, not enough bottom end. So that was half of the challenge of that song. So there you go. Mika says, knowing your speakers and system is paramount. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. But it's hard to mix what you can't hear. Hard to judge mixes with limited range speakers, which is why I judge mixes using a variety of different speakers, Mika. So there you go. And actually also, speaker size depends upon your room as well. If you've got a really small room, I don't think it's a great idea to have 10-inch speakers or 15-inch speakers, or even a sub. Now, if your room is like 9 by 8 or something like that, like my old studio space was, it was 9 by 8. It was tiny. And so a sub in there would have just been ridiculous. The whole room would have been completely overloaded with low end. And that's with bass trapping. And, the same with anything bigger in terms of speakers. It would just be too much for the room. So I think you have to take that into consideration. Let's see. Blades Music is here. He says, hello from North Atlanta, Georgia, United States. Hello, Blades. Good to have you in the show. Welcome. I'm fairly sure, actually, this is your first time. And he says, just finished watching the newest Personosphere training video about Mai Tai. Yeah, Mai Tai is awesome. And I think it's Gregor that did that video. Gregor is a very good friend of mine, and he really knows his stuff. And is pretty much a bit of an expert with synths and electronic music. I am not. I'm a jazz musician, so most of my work is acoustic music with a little bit of kind of electric keyboards like electric pianos and those kind of things and hammered organs. But yeah, I don't really deal with synthesizers that much. Occasionally I will have some in there, but yeah, he's a real wizard with that kind of stuff. But yes, I saw a little bit of that training video. I haven't really seen all of it yet because I've just been a little bit too busy. But yeah, the sound design one that Gregor did is really, really good. And I want to go and watch the rest of it. Marcos says, I like to use monitors and headphones combination to mix and master. Yeah, that's exactly what I do. I do that as well. Like I said, I have a quality control chain that comprises of my Persona speakers, 2 sets of headphones, a pair of earbuds, and some really old Celestion speakers which are in the lounge. And I run everything through those because if they sound good in there, then they're going to sound, whatever mix. If it sounds good on those speakers, I know it's going to sound good in anybody's lounge. Absolutely. Diego says, the song is really cool. I would have enjoyed mixing it. Does the first winner mix has a ducking effect in the bass? Yeah, a little bit. There's quite a lot of creativity in the winning mix, to be honest, and some of that is some ducking effects. Not just with the bass, but with a few other elements as well. He's used a ducked reverb on the vocal with a really slow release, so that you get kind of like just the last part of the reverb tail coming through after the vocal has sung, and it just sounds really, really good when you combine that with the delay that was used on the vocal as well. And I just thought, you know what, this vocal sounds really, really up front, but just really fills out the space nicely as well. So yeah, the ducking effects were kind of really what, the ducking effects and the other event effects that they had going on in that mix really kind of sealed the deal for me. And a lot of people actually forgot that there's a piano in that song. And so, there are a few songs, there are a few versions of the mix there in that top 10 that didn't have the piano in it at all. And the piano's kind of essential because it's kind of the arranging glue that holds the whole song together. Not just the synth arpeggios. The synth arpeggios are great. And they are part of the foundational sound for the song, but the piano is there for a good reason. And especially at the end, the piano is paramount in importance at the end. And there are a few mixes there that were never going to make the top 3 because they didn't have the piano in at the end. And the piano at the end was important piece of ear candy, because everything strips down, the texture thins out to just piano and vocal. Even the drums kind of drop out. And what won it for me really with Rindra's mix was the way they had the drums kind of drop out at the end. And then kind of allowing the piano to just kind of fade out nicely at the end. It was really good. Real attention to detail mix, which is what I liked about it. Tim says, he says, I want to just pick Gregor's brain one day, just for fun. Yeah, I get to do that fairly regularly. He and I chat back and forth on Skype quite a lot during the week, during the days, because we both work for Presonus. And so, Gregor's on hand quite regularly. And he is, by the way, folks, in case you're not aware, Gregor is hilarious. He is extremely entertaining. He has a terrific sense of humor. He's a lot of fun, and quite often our chats just descend into silliness, which is great because it keeps the day kind of engaging for me when I'm at work. Let's see. Kyle says my monitors don't have enough bass and my phones have too much. Yeah, so you need to kind of use the two to find that sweet spot. So you need to combine your headphones and your speakers to help you park the low end, and find that sweet spot between the two. So yeah, if you're going to use headphones to mix, my advice really would be to find a set of headphones that are designed for mixing. So, they have a flat frequency response, or as flat as you can get. These are pretty darn good. These are the Presonus HD7s. I've used these a lot over the last 7 or 8 years since they were created. But you can also try the Sennheiser HD250 Pros, or the 650 Pros if you've got a little bit of extra money to chuck around. The 650s are really, really good. My good friend and colleague Joe Gilder uses those a lot. He knows those very, very well. And they come with a terrific reputation. I don't have a set. I actually am considering investing in a set. Because everybody talks about how good they are for mixing on. So yeah, I absolutely recommend, if you're going to use headphones for mixing, that you get yourself something like those that are designed for mixing, that are open back, which means that the back side, this side here of the ear cups are open, which means that sound can come out, which means the low end can escape a little bit, which allows you to have a much flatter bass response with your headphones than closed back ones. And these ones are designed, the HD7s are designed to be good for mixing and for tracking. So they are what we call semi-open. So instead of being completely open, they have tiny little open holes that go around the sides of these. And that's what makes these actually pretty good for tracking as well as for mixing. Because you don't get a lot of bleed into the mic. You get a little bit because they're kind of semi-open. But you don't get loads. But really for tracking, these guys are outstanding. These are the HD9s, which I guess are the big brother of these ones. And these are closed back, as you can see, completely closed at the backs there. These are great for tracking. You get pretty much zero bleed out of these into your microphone. They do have some extra bass, which is okay because you're recording. Doesn't matter. When you're mixing, I would not mix on these because there is definitely a bump at about 180 to 220 in that kind of area. There is definitely a bump there, and there's definitely a bump around about 90. So, not great for mixing on, but pretty darn good for tracking. I recommend these. Just Bob says, I use the Sennheiser HD380s, which are also very, very good. Definitely. Let's see. Marcus says, can I link 3 VSL interfaces connected via ADAT with P10 cables in and outs to an analog mixer, or 3 of them to have 24-channel analog mixer? That is a good question. I'm not sure whether the VSL interfaces can be daisy-chained. Don't know whether they can. They are actually quite elderly interfaces. They were discontinued some time ago. So I can't really speak to how well they will work with the latest version of Universal Control. And I'm not sure whether you can daisy chain them. You might be able to, and if you can, then you should be able to daisy chain them fairly easily with ADATs or SPDIF or something like that. Whatever the outputs are on the back. I'm not a PreSonus hardware expert. My good friend Butch over at PreSonus is our interface expert. He does all of our interface support. Yeah, my specialty really is Studio One and Notion. Not really hardware. But yeah, you might be able to daisy chain them. Just Bob says, please write at Jonny Lipsham Studios so you can see your questions more easily. Without the @ symbol, it looks like a question. Without the @ symbol, yeah, exactly. If you have that @ symbol, then basically it shows my name in kind of orange red, and then I definitely know that is a question rather than just general chit chat. Let's see. Tim says, if we're talking speakers, I use Kali Audio LP8s and Yamaha NS10s. I also have some Sony MDR 7506 and AKG K240s. The NS10s are kind of, or at least for a time, they were considered the standard studio monitor speaker to have in your studio. And the reason why is because they sound crap. Sorry, Tim, if you really like them, but they sound very mid-rangey. And so if there are any mid-range flaws in your mix, run them through a pair of NS10s and the mid-range will blow your eardrums, and you'll know that you'll need to fix your mix to get the mid-range to sound good on a pair of NS10s. And if the mid-range sounds great on the NS10s, you know they will sound great anywhere. So definitely, those were fairly standard fare for a good long time. But the Kali Audios are really good too. I know a number of mix engineers that use those. Let's see. Mike says, I like my RSE 5s. They serve my purposes. That's what matters to me. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Thank you, Just Bob. I answered that question. Blade says, for headphones, which I use mostly for tracking playing E-drums, I like my Shure in-ear SE425s. Oh, I don't know those ones. I don't mix in them, though. Super isolating for both me and the mic. Yeah, definitely. I do have a set of in-ears, which I have had specially molded for my ears because my ears are a little bit of a weird shape. On the inside, not the external. External, they look fairly standard, fairly normal. But on the inner ear canal, they are a little bit of a weird shape. So I had some specially molded for me. And they are great. I have used them for a lot of years. And I have to clean them regularly because I have quite a lot of earwax. but they sound great. Let's see. Tim says, I know that a single ADAT connection in and out can support up to 8 channels of I/O. Yes, they certainly can. That's quite correct. Diego says, is there a way to send Studio One audio through a Skype call? Yes, there is, but not directly through PreSonus. You will need something like what I use for doing this show, which is OBS. That's what I use. You will need to set up OBS on your system. If you are a Windows user, you will also need an interface that supports loopback, such as the Studio 1824, the Studio 24, the Studio 68, the Studio 1810. They all support loopback. Or if you have another third-party interface that supports loopback, that will do the job as well. Now, here's the thing. You will need to set up if you're using one of the PreSonus ones, such as what I'm using, which is the 1824, you will need to set universal control into virtual mode for your mix. Your stereo mix will need to be in virtual mode on universal control. Once you've set that up, you then need to go to Studio One and create a new stereo input, which you will then label as Virtual 1 and 2. That's what you'll call it. And then you will connect that to the Virtual 1 and 2 that appears on the matrix at the end of your input matrix. And then when you've done that, then you will go into Skype and you will select your mic as the Virtual 1 and 2. And here's the thing, the other thing you'll need to do, because now you'll be able to get Studio One audio, but nobody will be able to hear you speak. So what you'll need to do, because the way Skype works, is it will only take a stereo output, one stereo output. It won't take more than that. So what you'll have to do is you'll have to create a track for your voice in the song that you're using in Studio One. And then you'll have to level match it so that it's a little bit louder than your Studio One song overall, the Studio One mix overall. And then whoever you're talking to, and then you'll need to make sure that that track is monitored and solo safe, so that if you're soloing a track, you don't cut off your mic. So there are a few steps that you need to take to get it to work. And that's what I have to do for Skype and for Zoom as well. Zoom has to work the same way, because both of those will only take one stereo input. However, OBS for live streaming to YouTube is really, really clever, because OBS will allow you to have a Studio One mix on a separate channel, and your mic on a separate channel. So I'm talking to you on this mic on a separate input in OBS. What that means is that I can have an expander and a compressor and an EQ on this mic, which I do, without affecting my Studio One sound. So if I was to play a little bit of Studio One for you, hang on just a second. Oh, and actually, incidentally, I'm going to show you the other thing that I was going to talk to you about. So I can kind of answer 2 questions here. So let's go over to Studio One. All right, check this out. If you've not seen the Scope plugin before, check this baby out. Now, the Scope is very, very cool. It's just an oscilloscope, essentially. It's very cool. But what you can do is you can open it. You can have it like, oh, didn't want to press that button. Normally, it would be collapsed like that, right? But if you set it into expand mode, and then you play the audio, watch what happens to the oscilloscopes. It's very cool. See, you get your waveform in live real time. It's very, very cool. One of my colleagues at Personas showed me that, and I was just like, oh, I have to show my live stream folks on Sunday, because they'll get a kick out of that. So there you go. So I have Studio One, my output here. In fact, you can see if I show you my inputs, you'll be able to see. Here's my virtual stereo channel that I was talking about. So when I play the track, watch this. And what's basically happening is the output of Studio One here, my main output, is being sent to my virtual input. And the virtual input is then going into OBS. And that way you guys get to hear that. And my mic is a separate channel altogether. And you can see my input here for my mic. Hello, hello, hello. And so that's how that works. And it's actually dead easy to set up. I get a lot of questions on this. You won't believe how many times, especially in, this kind of coronavirus period where we're all kind of having to do things a little bit differently in lockdown and all that kind of stuff. Was that Lucas that showed you he's been doing a lot on... No, it wasn't actually Lucas, no. It was one of our managers over in Latin America called Gus. He's great. He's hilarious. He's a very entertaining guy, and he showed me this. Just Bob asks, where is Scope located? No, it's not a third-party plugin. It's a native Studio One plugin. See, it has the Personas logo there, so it's a Personas plugin, and you just find it in the plugin list here. You just go down until you see Scope, and then you just drag it in. So there you go. It is just a native plugin. Bill Johnson is here. Hello, Bill. How are you, mate? Says, how do I hook up my Nectar Impact 49 in Studio One 5 Artist? I ran into some problems. Good question. Now, because Nectar keyboards, I'm going to go back over to this screen. Because Nectar keyboards are not just keyboards that you can certainly play them like a keyboard for sure, but they have some other control elements to them. What you have to do is you have to set the keyboard up as a new keyboard in external devices, but you also have to set it up as a control surface. Now, depending upon your Nectar keyboards, the setup might be a little bit different. So you will probably need to go to either your user guide, user reference manual, whatever it is for Nectar, or you can go to the Nectar website and see what they have there for how you set up the control element in Studio One. They should have some instructions there. I mean, we do have some over here in the reference manual. I just go back over here for setting up control surfaces, and it's under set up your MIDI devices. So these are instructions here for setting up a MIDI keyboard. So you set this part up first, and then you would need to set up a control surface, I think, in the same external devices menu. You choose the device from the predefined list and all of that stuff. You may wish to type in manufacturer name, device name, and your product fields. This makes identifying the control surface easier. Specify device for sending and receiving. Select your MIDI device driver name from the drop-down menu for both receive and send to. Do not need to specify MIDI channels on your control surface. Control surface uses alternative protocols such as Mackie or Huey is another one. And then you should be all good to go. For more information on this, on using Mackie control devices, do you want to see Mackie control? And there's a whole section here on Mackie control setup and how you can group different units, and you can add extenders and all of that kind of stuff. This is good if you have like a specific mixer that you want to control Studio One with, or what have you. All right, so there you go. Ken says, Nectar has an install file to map to Studio One. I have the 88 key impact. Well, there you go. If I remember, though, I did have to tweak the routing a bit. Yeah. Yeah, you probably will. Yeah, probably will. Yeah, that's kind of hardware control, keyboards, and setting those external devices up. And setting up control link, and then there's a whole section here on global and focus mapping, automation with hardware controllers, map your keyboard. There's a whole section here on that. Sorry, I'm not sharing my screen again. For controlling systems, work with your keyboard. Software map must be made of the hardware controls you wish to use, which is what just Bob was talking about. So you then have to set all of this up here. And this is used in the Akai V49 as an example here. But yeah, you can map all of those items, and then you'll be able to see them in the MIDI monitor here. So there you go. There's a whole section there. So go check that out, and hopefully that will get you squared away with that. I don't have any such keyboard. I have a Yamaha QS300, which is about 26 years old. The only part of it that actually works now is the keyboard itself. The disk drive and the sequencer bit don't work anymore. It does have a sequencer on board, but the disk drive and the sequencer don't work anymore. But I also have the Atom SQ as well, which is very, very handy. I got one of the first ones because I just can. Alrighty, we've got about 5 minutes left. I'll take maybe a couple more questions. And then we will call it a night because I have an early start in the morning. And it is already nearly 1 a.m. and I have to be up at like 6 a.m. So it only gives me about 5 hours sleep, but that's okay. I only need 4, so we're good. So yeah, I'll definitely take another couple of questions. But otherwise, we'll be ending the show very, very shortly if there are no more questions. Blade says, I love the way Studio One does its hardware mapping. I just did a YouTube video on automation in Studio One with hardware. So much easier than the cakewalk ACT stuff. Yeah, it is. It is so much easier. I think the way the Studio One does mapping is so much easier than any other DAW out there. I reckon. And I used Cubase for a very, very long time. I used Cubase for nearly 30 years. Almost 30 years, like 27, 28 years I used Cubase before switching to Studio One, and I've never, ever looked back. But yeah, that kind of looks like that's it for this evening. That looks like it's the last question. Unless somebody has something that they are going to post in the chat immediately in the next like 30 seconds. Otherwise, we're going to end the show. I won't play any more of that, otherwise I will get a copyright strike. And that would be bad. So, okay, there we go. I think that's it. I don't think we're getting any more questions coming through. So, suffice to say, thank you very much for joining me this evening for another episode of Sunday Night Live on this 27th of September. We are in week 28, I believe, of COVID-19. For those of you that are keeping a count of such things, I think that's where we're at, week 28. Which is, gosh, that's just about half the year. Pretty much. But yeah, I hope everybody is keeping well and staying safe and wearing a mask when they are out and about, especially when they are in shops and pubs and clubs, that kind of stuff. And that you're maintaining social distancing and all that fun stuff. It is very, very important. This is not a political issue. This is a public service and healthcare issue. So, yeah, please make sure you're doing that. Ken says, can I learn to play the saxophone? Yes, you can. If you go out and buy one and buy Tune a Day for sax. Definitely recommend it. I have an alto saxophone. And I like to play it occasionally when my neighbors are happy for me to play it. But I also have a clarinet. My wife has a flute. And she has a set of recorders as well. So occasionally we play some recorder music, which is entertaining. But yes, I recommend playing any instrument. So if you've never played the saxophone before, set yourself the challenge to learn at least one or two tunes on the sax. Definitely go for it. Mike says, I go back to work on Wednesday for the first time since March 13th. Wow. Good grief. That's incredible. All right, folks, that's it for tonight. I will see you all on Wednesday over on Jonny Gibe's channel, which is, if you don't know who that is, where the hell have you been? The channel is Home Studio Trainer. I'll be over there for Songwriting Simplified with Jonny, and we will have some cool stuff to talk about with regard to songwriting and arranging, and occasionally we talk about music theory, and occasionally we talk about music history, and occasionally we talk about the history of recording and recording techniques and that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in all that kind of stuff, then please do get yourself over there, 6 p.m. Central, same time but not the same place, unless Jonny can't make the show, in which case it will be here. But he should be good for this week. All right, folks, I will see you next time. Bye for now.